Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and thank you for watching. My name is Lloyd Dearness. I am a cybersecurity consultant. I also work as a subject matter expert for ISC Squared, that is the International Information System Security Certification Consortium, and my particular area of subject matter expertise, if you will, is in risk, whether it be strategic risk analysis or tactical risk, or dealing with dynamic risks in a fluctuating environment such as the risk landscape and the threat landscape that most organizations face today. If you don't know what any of that means, that's fine. Today is not going to be a technical discussion. The fact that I have a technical background is immaterial to it. We are going to be talking about cybersecurity. We are going to be talking about risk. However, we're going to be doing so in terms of the business concepts of what those things mean. So let's start off with a definition. Risk is often thought of in a negative fashion. It is perceived negatively. So in other words, the connotation is negative. And in some dictionaries, the denotation may be negative as well. However, when we turn to the Project Management Institute, which is the organization that is considered internationally to be the world leader in how projects are managed, and within the scope of projects, how risk is managed, the Project Management Institute tells us that a risk is the potential for something that could have a negative or a positive outcome. And more organizations and more entities are starting to realize that the potential for a positive outcome from something that is very uncertain is something that they need to consider in their planning, and not just their project planning, but in their day-to-day organizational operations. When it comes to projects, it could be technical projects, or if those technical projects are aligned to support business projects, and they should always be aligned thusly, we have to consider that both types of projects encounter not only risk, but the positive and negative outcomes if those risks decide to manifest. So what are we talking about when we're talking about risk? We're talking about an uncertainty. Now, in the field of cybersecurity, we are trying to manage that uncertainty. How do you manage something that you don't even know whether or not it's going to occur? And if it does occur, you have no idea what the impact is going to be. Well, we use the current status of the organization, the things that are going on right now that we can observe. We also look at the history of the organization. Now, the historical look back, so to speak, is extremely important because we have to get that information from the people who have it up here, as well as whatever is written down on paper. And very often there's much more information up here, what we call tacit information, than there is explicit information that we can look at. And explicit information tends to be frozen in time. Tacit information, on the other hand, evolves as new tacit information comes in. It gets adapted and adjusted to absorbing the new information, to reevaluating the old information in light of the new information. So we take all of those factors into account and we say to ourselves, okay, Joe over here, who works in the accounting department, has seen the computer system that they use, the software package that they use for the accounting, crash dozens of times over the years. However, he's noticed in particular that it is doing so much more often. So that piece of tacit knowledge, that piece of knowledge that shows that something is going on in a critical system that supports a critical mission essential function in the organization, is now happening with a greater frequency, is something that we might get directly from him right out of the gate. But we have to ask the questions in some cases. Other times he may volunteer it, but we don't know for sure that he's going to do that. So now we have to look at other sources of the same information. Well, the software package probably logs activity. The computer technology that the software package is riding on, whether it be physical technology or virtual technology, is logging activity as well. Is someone looking at those logs? Are we doing some sort of analysis of the information that's coming in from those logs? Are we even aware that those logs exist? We could be searching for that information. We could be proactive about looking for that information, and in particular, looking for patterns that evolve. Because let's face it, those logs, they are going to have hundreds of thousands, if not millions of entries in a very short period of time. So it's too much information to absorb for a human being to sit down and go through. They're going to need some additional tool. And I don't want to get in the business of naming particular tools because I don't want to sound as if I'm endorsing their products. However, if it doesn't take very much research to find out that there are a number of tools out there that will ingest a feed of raw data and analyze it and give it to you in formats that will make sense to you. They can organize the data. They can look for certain keywords or certain types of events that are captured in the data. Using that data analysis and aggregation, some call it big data analysis and aggregation, and it may in fact be big when you're talking about logs because of the sheer volume, will go a long way toward identifying a potential problem in the same way that Joe is aware that there is a potential problem. The logs are a little bit more concrete. They also can point to the root cause, perhaps much more easily than Joe can. Joe is aware that there's a problem. He may even have some ideas or some theories as to what the root cause is. For example, he could say, well, you know, it got worse a few weeks ago after you guys installed that latest patch. Okay, that's a critical piece of information. So we take that type of information, both the tacit information that Joe is going to share with us, assuming he either volunteers it or we question him properly, and we take the explicit information that's in the logs or whatever other technical sources of information we can look for and we can pull in, and we compare the two, and now we have a pretty clear picture of an event that is going to happen. That system is going to fail either partially or entirely because something is wrong and it's not going to get better on its own. Highly unlikely that it's going to get better on its own. Now that's true even in an environment where you have autonomic computing, in other words, self-healing computer systems. The very fact that the problem keeps reoccurring and it is now occurring with greater frequency means that whatever autonomic activities were taking place, if there were any, are insufficient to really solve the problem. Perhaps they are looking at one of the symptoms of the problem as opposed to the root cause. It doesn't really matter. The bottom line is we have to get to the root cause. Now there are a number of ways that we can do that. One of the most popular is to use what is known as a fishbone or an Ishikawa diagram. I will talk about that in more detail in another episode. But for today, I just wanted you to consider those facts. My contact information is in my LinkedIn profile. Please feel free to reach out to me with any questions or comments about this episode, and I will be happy to answer questions to the extent that I can. Thank you very much, and I wish you a pleasant day.